Here we are back in the basement, and we left off with a bang. These racks, they look absolutely stunning. And while I'm still figuring out, well, this rack is pretty clear. All my inserts, all my analog FX, insert FX, there. This rack, well, not so sure. Because there's two more things that I need that are now kind of in this rack all at once. And I don't know if that's the proper way to do it. The two things I need is A, preamps. So I do have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A to D converters in this rack. I have the patch base here for the connections of the rooms, and then I will also have a preamp rack where I don't know, it will probably be on top or I put it inside, not too sure yet. Then however, what I also have is my analog summing, and that's where stuff gets funky, because for that I need my FX units that I will sum, the Lexicon, the Yamaha, my chorus, my spring reverb, and then there will be more later in my career, let's say. And then of course also the interface units that kind of go with it. Now, both in the same rack, I figure, are not going to have enough space, and I would either have to stack preamps on top of here. Then also I won't have too much space to expand. I know I will need another patch bay in here for the interconnections, and then this is basically full, which is not a good thing in my case. So maybe I will put the analog summing somewhere else, which makes this interesting, because if I do so, well, I thought I would have maybe a table here in this triangle corner, and on top of this table I could put, for example, my SSL6 or my master channel that I need for the summing. Then again, I would like to have some inserts like my master channel appear on this patch bay. You see, still things that I have to figure out. So I think what I will do next is I will start with this rack, because this is pretty damn clear, and cable that, see how far I get, and then we continue from there. I know my mixing setup is not of immediate importance. Like if I have to rank importance, first thing I want to do is get the recording side to work so I can do test recordings, and then wire it up so that I can mix on it as well. But yeah, not too easy. Well, before we do that, let's start with another thing, which is power. And you can see I went shopping. They have these fantastic Brennstuhl on discount at Thomann. So I got these. I got more screws. I got a power strip with a switch similar to what I have. Do I have it built in already? No! But I do have another one of these that will go in there so I can switch on and off the racks from the front. And then yeah, take it from there. Let's do it! Okay, I think I found the solution. That is, we did have another rack, the old one, and it just happens to fit snug in here next to that. The console will go until here, so I know it fits. I can put all my summing stuff in here now, which means the output interfaces. I probably put the monitor interface here as well. I will put some blanks so I can, you know, have this kind of as a desk space, maybe put the laptop in here. I might have my reverb units in there, though I know if the console goes until here, there won't be much space to operate units there. Let's see. But for now, I'm just happy I expanded space because, as I told you, this rack is filled with too much stuff. So, yeah. Loading something into another rack just makes sense. Alrighty, just another quick check for the layout. Pretty happy with this one. We nailed it here with the units that are hard to reach. We replaced with interfaces. Now I have some units at the bottom. Amazing. The interfaces are now wired to the patch bay. Now this little bonus rack here, I tried to figure out what I can reach and what not, and I could reach it better than I thought, right? And if I have reverb and effects unit here that normally don't need tweaking, it's for my mixing more like a set and forget thing, they can very, very well live there. In this corner, the other wagon as well has the interfaces connected to its pitch bay. There's one pitch bay missing for tie lines between the two racks. I will order cables for that. That will go along the back of this room. Now, what we're going to do next is, for the final cabling and testing, we're going to have the console come up front because everything in there is so super tight that I want to have a configuration where the console now is here in the middle of the room. We can access all the racks from behind the console, so we can have them come out and work on the back of these, right? Then we're going to test everything. And once everything is tested, the final step will be to move the console back to the wall. So far so good. Let's do it. Here we are. Cabling is coming along off this rack. Not as clean as the car that I showed you that they built for broadcast. But we're doing our best here. I've seen it worse in professional studios. Patch bay. Now it is accessible from the back. I never had that before. It is a dream. All these units, I got the 500 series connected. I got my Dana modules connected. Missing is only here, Putex. Some of the other 19 inches. The interfaces are all connected. Now I have to do the digital connection between the interfaces, give it addresses. They won't be able to sit on one MIDI string, as there's only possible to have 7 on one. So I'll be having 2 MIDI strings with 5 interfaces on each, or maybe I do like 6 and 4. But yeah, let me zoom out a bit. I've seen worse. No cables on the back. Big thanks to Florian for doing most of the wiring here. Good job. Welcome. Good job. And yeah, now on to some rest. We do some cleaning and then continue here tomorrow with bringing the interconnections onto the recording rack and then figure out the summing / centerfix rack. Let's go. Here we are again, and it feels like we're starting to see the finish line. Let me catch you up. We had a busy day of working already behind us. Look at that. The Siemens preamp. I figured
a way to shorten it a bit. It is still not 19-inch, but it's parked here nicely and it's so heavy. It's not moving when you move something on there. My configuration for the wooden rack was so well done that I could use the back plates here, which is awesome. I now just will not have a way to access these switches, but I figured having these preamps in the plus 6 dB position is my go-to anyways. So yeah, that is that. Again, this rack is cabled. Huge props to Flo, Mr. Don Da Vinci, for cabling this. Looks absolutely amazing. We have the tie lines to the rooms now connected to here as well and safely secured. This rack now is only missing the interconnections to the other rack. And then there will be a tray with preamps that are not 19-inch. So I have a tube preamp there. I have like a Telefunken. I have some stuff. So this is very, very much close to the finish line. This one we had fully cabled, so that's good from yesterday. Now this rack, I am starting to cable it now. It will be the last. You can see there are the first connections going to the SSL already for summing. But there is some parts missing here. Well, I have the outputs for the loudspeakers. That is good. I have some extra XLRs that I will use to connect to my reverbs and effects units. But I still need like a summing box for all the FX. So there's stuff that still has to be built. But I will try to connect it all anyway so we can test it later. And that's what will be the next step that we have in mind. There are some cables that still have to go around here that were not finished. They're finished now. Also, I received another optical cable with the right length. And then, yeah, we will connect the frame to the interfaces. And then it will be time to start up the console again and start testing everything. And then we are so close to making this a finished build. Welcome back to the Lawo in the studio. Yes, we are back. And we've gotten pretty far, even though it feels super chaotic. There's stuff everywhere, there's tools everywhere, and I can't wait to finish this build. Yeah, there's still a few things left to do. And the next thing now would be, I mean, we have the racks populated and we have most of the interfaces connected to the system. Now I have their ports, I have their addresses. I have this sheet now where I listed all my interfaces, which type, which address, yes, and on what string or port they are. So that I can now go into my system files, like here. And you see I started already giving them IDs, telling the system what interface unit type. The 3103, for example, is output. The 3101 is an input unit. I have here 3602 surround monitoring. And yeah. That is the first step, right? So every interface gets an ID. I will note that back here into my sheet. And then once that is done, I will go into my high-level definition file where I give classes and inputs and outputs and define if they're mono or stereo. Yeah, you see here mic, stereo devices, multi-track, whatever. And then once that is done, I can go into my matrix list, which will be the final step. And the matrix list here, yeah, where I do the directories and refer them to my defined signals. And once that is done, I can open the GUI program and will then have all my inputs and outputs here in this matrix. So far, so good. Let's get to coding. Okay, here we are. After editing and more editing, I have my matrix list file. Where's my cursor? Here it is. I have my matrix list file edited. I have my signals defined. I hope all my numbers correct. Next step would be testing everything, see if I get error messages or whatnot. So first step is to distribute the files to the management server as well. And then I will boot up the GUI program here, see if my list is correct and everything. Let's do it. And here we are. Yes. Yes, yes. This is the new matrix list for the studio. We have all the outs of the desk. Then we have the mics from our producer's room, the mics from the booth, insert returns, DAW inputs. And then on the other side, all the stuff from the desk. Then we have summing, right? Outputs, FX sense, and the insert sense. The phones, the DAW. As targets, they call it. Heben und senken. Sources and targets. Looking good so far. I will make the insert returns here ins returns. Because I have here, insert sense, insert returns. I mean, makes sense that in this mixing desk, it's kind of the other way around, right? So my insert returns are a target here, because if I put something in the insert return of the desk, it appears on the desk. So it's an input of the desk. But if I send something to an insert send here, then it's going out. Right. Let me clean that up and then we test it. Okay, so I edited all the files. I have my new matrix list. But now if I try to connect anything, and that is not only with this list, easy connect, nothing happens. But also if I, for example, choose monitoring, nothing happens. And now if I try to start the signal matrix, it gives me an error at line 1051. Before I had an error at line 8030. Now let me show you what that is. If I exit, I go into my config, into my signal matrix default SMC. I can now go, here's the lines, I can now go to line 1051. Yeah. And it's the 2-track entries. I removed the 2-track from the high level or signal definitions. I don't have a 2-track yet in the system. I could do that later, depending on my setup, right? It would be just like a 2-track machine. It could be like a CD player. Whatever. It could be an aux cord, for example. For the future. For now, I will set this up so you see above it I have DAW 1 and 2, DAW 2, 1 and 2. I will do the 3 and 4s below. So below would be DAW 1, 3 and 4. So I could, with this, switch through different references, right? The demo version, for example, of the song that I'm mixing. I could choose here. I could choose like a Spotify or whatever stream here or a different reference. That's the idea. Now, let me set that up and see how far I can get. I will clear the error at these lines of code and then see if I will be able to route anything after. Okay, I debugged the Sigma. So if I now start the Sigma, that's right, nothing happens because we get no error messages. Now, I still can't do connections. And also if where this works, but these don't. These work. So there is some debugging for me still to do. But also if I try to route anything to anything, it's not doing any connects. Now, this guy does not receive orders as well. So I'm guessing I now have a mismatch between the config files on this computer and the config files on the other computer. So I try to sync everything up and then hopefully it works. Here I am back determined to get this going after it's been a whole afternoon of, okay, see it now. The PowerPC not recognizing my interfaces. And let me take you back. I had to go home and get the serial port to log into the real-time computer to see what's going on. And you can see he does say no audio definitions found. And then earlier he said, where is that? Yeah, there was an error in the configuration. And basically when counting the signals, I went from 79 to 81. So I skipped one number and he did not like that. That's what he said here. Well, so he gives the error on load, and that's why he didn't load anything and said, well, there's no audio definitions at all. And that's why he didn't even look for interface units. You can see here. Well, he did look for the monitoring unit and for the sync unit. Well, I changed this one line of code, or this one sector, where he was giving me the error. And yeah, now we're here. All the interfaces showing up. Let's see how that looks like on the desk and if we can make a connection. And here we are after he now recognized all of them in one go. I was able again to root stuff. The buttons are responsive again. All it took was just basically one line of code, right? One number skipped in a series of numbers. Well, here he is. I can route it direct. The interface, no, not the interface. The monitoring unit is connected and working. I will now prepare all of the racks so I can be here tomorrow with my studio mate and friend Tim to test all of these. Like all of the other, see if everything's cabled right, if I'm able to reach the analog outboard, fire these racks up. I bought ventilation systems for these super packed racks. I don't know if I will be able to install them tomorrow, but whew, happy we're here. Here we are, back in the studio, me and Tim. Thank you very much for your help testing the inputs, and I had a hard time getting these to work and show up, but as you can see, we are testing right now, and we have signal on the mic pre's. Next we will test these from the rooms, from the recording rooms, and also we figured some wiring that the numbers are not correct. So that's what we're going to do first, and then we go into the rooms. Amazing. 11, 12, 13, ist die nächste Reihe, ne? 14, 15, 16. Good stuff. I will now patch the remaining 8 into preamps so that we can test these ways into the booth as well. Tim is in there. Let's do it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yes, one room done. Let's do the next.
Yes. 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 Oh, hier sind nochmal welche vertauscht. This is 9 of 9, right?
15.
Oh yeah, 15. Yeah, but it reaches my end wrong. And now the question again is that if that's the 15 and I disconnect it, yeah. So again, it's swapped on the receiver's end. So I patch this here, this there. Now I connect it again here. And now 15 on 15, yes. Perfect.
16?
Yes, please. And there it is. Yeah. That's all 40 inserts tested, working. Nice. We couldn't get every device tested. We had a good time here also just test driving some of this equipment, finally tweaking some knobs again after weeks of this studio not being function. Thank you very much, Tim, for your support here. I need to go through the 24 volts for my broadcast equipment. The power supply wouldn't come up. There's the Studer limiter who is a bit, I need to get it checked. Otherwise, I'm extremely happy. We now have the preamps tested. We now have the FX rack tested. Very, very close to this being a finished system. I think interface-wise, there now only is the summing units to test, the output units. And then there is the sync unit, which does not connect somehow. But I figure that later. For now, happy it works. It somehow even works without the sync unit, so who knows what this is about. But yeah, there we go. You see the interfaces spilling out music. Awesome. All right, here we are, and this is the third rack now tested. And well, you can see it still has problems. These interface, they reset. So I will have a look into that. Maybe it's just some cabling. The down one won't receive any audio at all. But that is debugging. You can see the chorus gets signal, the reverbs get their signals, the summing is getting signal. Awesome. Very, very nice. We can now start to clean up all of this mess and make this a functioning studio again.
Clean.
Yeah, and with that, let's clean it up. And here we are. Flocky! Don't you like it? The setup put back together, but now mostly functioning. Which is just so cool. And I've already been taking my few minutes to admire and enjoy this moment in time. There is the things to fix on this. Out of the maybe 100, maybe more connections we tested today, I think there's 2 lines not working. There is
one line to one of the converters that I have to check the connector. There is one line coming from the other room to here that I have to check, that is missing level. And yeah, there's a few preamps that have to be added. I think that one of the output units from the summing rig was not working properly. So there is these little things to do, and then of course cleaning up all this mess, making it look nice, taking care of the acoustics, getting the speakers set up so I can start to work, then adding to it small speakers, large speakers. I have ideas for the speaker placements that I get them really up the wall. I take out this absorber, take up this absorber, put it back. Then I can put the desk further to the back as well. Yeah. But yeah, that's step by step, right? And today we made major steps forward. It is now time to clean up. It is time to start using this system, and I'm super happy for all of your support here on YouTube, for all the comments, for the support from my studio community, the support of my co-worker Florian, who invested a lot of his effort into this build as well, the support of my family who pushed me through doing all this. And yeah, let's go.